The scent of roasted chicken wafted through the warm evening air as the sun began to set behind our small but cozy home in the heart of Lagos. It was supposed to be a normal Sunday dinner, the one day of the week when my father insisted we all sat together at the dining table. But that night was different. The table was set neatly with my mother's best plates, the ones she only brought out when we had visitors or special occasions. There were no visitors, and yet, she fussed over every detail like her life depended on it. I could feel the tension before I even sat down. My father, a stern man with a voice like gravel and a presence that could silence a room, sat at the head of the table. His dark eyes scanned the room, sharp and calculating. He was the kind of man whose approval you lived for, and whose disappointment could crush you. My two younger brothers, Tand and Malik, were already seated, nervously fidgeting with their spoons. My mother flitted around like a butterfly, adjusting plates, refilling glasses, and avoiding eye contact with anyone. I took a deep breath and sat down, directly across from my father. Finally, he muttered, glancing at his wristwatch. "We can begin." We bowed our heads briefly as he said grace. His voice was steady, but I noticed the way his hand tightened around the fork as he prayed. Dinner started quietly. The only sounds were the clinking of cutlery and the occasional murmur of my mother asking if anyone needed more rice. But underneath that silence, a storm was brewing. I could feel it, in my gut, in the stiffness of my father's jaw, in the way my mother's hands trembled slightly. Halfway through the meal, he cleared his throat and reached under the table. "This," he said, his deep voice cutting through the tension, "is why we are here tonight." He placed a thick brown envelope in the center of the table and pushed it towards me. The sound of the paper sliding across the polished wood seemed louder than it should have been. My heart began to pound. "This," he continued, "contains the documents for your future, Aisha." My name on his lips felt heavy. He almost never used it unless he was serious. "You are my firstborn," he said, looking at me with that same unyielding stare. "I have sacrificed too much for this family. It is time you start taking responsibility. These are the papers for the job I secured for you at the firm. You will start next month." My breath caught in my throat. I had spent the last 4 years of my life chasing my dream of becoming a writer. Late nights spent drafting stories, early mornings running to workshops, saving every naira I earned from tutoring to fund writing courses. I had even gotten accepted into a writing fellowship abroad. My father knew all of this. And yet, here he was, deciding my future without even asking me. "Baba," I started, my voice shaking slightly. No, he cut me off sharply, raising his hand. "You will not argue. This is final." He pushed the envelope even closer to me. "You will work there. You will build a stable life. Enough of this writing nonsense. It is time to grow up." My mother's eyes flickered towards me with silent pleading, urging me to just accept it and avoid conflict. My brothers stared down at their plates, pretending to be invisible. But I couldn't. Not this time. I swallowed hard, fighting the urge to cry. "Baba, I appreciate everything you've done for me. But I have plans of my own. I've been accepted into a writing fellowship in Cape Town. This is my chance." The room went silent. My father's face darkened, his nostrils flaring. "A chance? A chance to waste more time? Do you think the world will feed you because you scribble words on paper?" His voice rose, shaking the walls. My mother flinched. "This family needs stability," he thundered. "Do you think I broke my back working day and night so my daughter could run off chasing foolish dreams?" My lips trembled, but I held his gaze. "This isn't foolish to me, Baba. It's my passion. My calling." His hand slammed down on the table so hard that the plates rattled. "Your calling is to honor this family. To do as I say." The tension was unbearable. My chest felt tight, my eyes burned with unshed tears. I knew nothing I said would change his mind. So instead, I reached down into my bag and pulled out my own folder, a slim, blue one I had been carrying for weeks, unsure of when I'd have the courage to show him. My hands shook as I placed it on the table, right next to his envelope. "Baba," I whispered, my voice breaking. "Before you decide for me, please, just look at this." His eyes narrowed suspiciously. Slowly, he reached out and opened the folder. Inside were my short stories, carefully typed and bound. But more than that, there were letters from people around the world who had read my work online. Letters from young girls who said my stories gave them hope, from struggling writers who said my words inspired them to keep going, from communities who felt seen because of what I wrote. There was also an acceptance letter, proof that my talent wasn't just a dream, but something real. My father's hands froze as he scanned the pages. His lips parted slightly, his usual commanding presence faltering. For the first time in my life, I saw something unexpected in his eyes. Uncertainty. He turned another page. Then another. The room was so quiet you could hear the ticking of the old wall clock. My brothers stared wide-eyed. My mother held her breath. Finally, my father closed the folder and sat back, silent. My heart pounded. I didn't know what he was thinking. I didn't know if this was a victory or the calm before another storm. "Baba," I said softly, tears welling up. "This is who I am. This is my future. I just want you to see me." He didn't speak. He didn't even look at me. And that silence was worse than his anger. The next morning was eerily quiet. I woke up to find my father's car already gone. My mother sat at the kitchen table, clutching a cup of tea like it was her lifeline. "He left early," she said, avoiding my eyes. Didn't say much. I sat down across from her, feeling a knot form in my stomach. "Do you think he's angry?" She sighed deeply. "Your father, he's a proud man. Everything he's done for this family. It's hard for him to accept that his way isn't the only way." I nodded, staring at my hands. All day, I waited for him to return, dreading what would happen. When he finally came home that evening, his face was unreadable. He walked past me without a word, straight into his study. Minutes later, he called for me. I entered the room nervously. On his desk were both folders, his and mine. He looked at me for a long moment, then spoke quietly. "Aisha. I read every word in your folder." My heart skipped. "You have talent," he admitted, his voice rough. "Real talent. I see now that this is not just a childish hobby." Hope flickered in my chest. "So, you'll let me go to Cape Town?" His expression hardened again. "I will not stop you. But understand this, following your dream will not be easy. The world will not always be kind. You will face hunger, rejection, and pain. And when that happens, you must be strong enough to endure it." Tears filled my eyes. "I'm ready, Baba. I need you to believe in me." He closed his eyes briefly, then nodded. "Then go. Make me proud." 2 months later, I stood at the departure gate of Murtala Muhammad International Airport. My suitcase by my side. My father stood beside me, his face stoic but his eyes softer than I'd ever seen them. "Call us when you land," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "I will," I whispered. As I hugged him, I realized how far we'd both come. He hadn't become the warm, encouraging father I had always dreamed of, but he had given me something even more precious, his respect. When my flight was called, I picked up my suitcase and turned to wave one last time. As I walked away, I thought about the countless young people whose dreams are crushed under the weight of expectations, whose voices are silenced before they can even speak. I knew my journey would be difficult, but I also knew this: sometimes, the most powerful change begins with a single act of courage, placing your own folder on the table and daring the world to see you. And that thought alone made me feel unstoppable. ChatGPT can make mistakes. Check important info.